California, of Southern California. Okay, so not only did she get a good education, she learned to surf. No? Oh, okay. All right. She also writes a weekly column for the Capitol Report, and she's very often heard on the program The Forum and New Mexico, News New Mexico. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brigette Russell.
Bob's right. Restoring constitutional principles is very hard. Part of what makes it so hard is that you, the citizen, are one of about 300 million. When we're talking local politics here in New Mexico, you, the citizen, are one of 2 million. Moreover, as residents of Santa Fe, what's about 4 or 5 blocks down that street over there?
Roundhouse.
The Roundhouse. You as citizens of Santa Fe have a tremendous opportunity to make your voices heard in state and local government and to restore the constitutional principles of our state. I spent the last session working at the Roundhouse analyzing bills, the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bills that your lawmakers clog the system with. As Bob was saying, you, the citizen, can go down to a committee meeting and make your voices heard. But there are so many bills that it's difficult for you, the citizen, to keep track of what's being heard in what committee. All the information is there on the legislature's website. It's very user-friendly. It's very easy for you to get involved. But one day, during public school spring break, I was sitting there in House Education Committee, and there was a lady who had dragged 3 of her children down to the committee because she desperately wanted to speak out on one of the bills that was on calendar that day. The committee didn't hear the bill that day. She brought the kids back. The committee didn't hear the bill. The woman was almost in tears. Our legislators, they don't respect the rights of you, the citizen. They don't treat you with the dignity and respect that you, the citizen, deserve to be treated. Part of the problem why people show up to speak about a bill that they care passionately about and then go home without the bill having been heard is that there are too many bills. There are far, far too many bills. This past session, the House alone, not counting the Senate, the House alone introduced 790 bills. That's too many bills for you to keep track of. You have jobs, you have families. How can you possibly keep track of all the bills and pay attention to what are the good ones that you need to show up and support? What are the bad ones that you need to show up and fight? With all of those hundreds and hundreds, and some sessions, some years, thousands of bills, how can any citizen keep up with them all? Why are there so many bills? 100 years ago, when our state legislature was set up by Constitution, it was set up to be a part-time citizen legislature. Meets for 60 days in odd-numbered years and 30 days in even-numbered years. The reason they were supposed to meet for such a short period of time was because they were only supposed to take care of necessities, only the essential things, pass a budget, and repeal, amend, or enact the few laws that were absolutely necessary for the people of New Mexico to have a good life and the state government to work. That's not what they do anymore. They introduce hundreds of bills that are duplicative, that are pointless, that are trivial. I don't know about you, but before we had a National Day of the Cowboy, I just don't know how I lived. Before we had an official state necklace, well, what did we do? So many of these bills, some of them are short, couple of pages long. Some of them are dozens of pages long, 50, 60 pages long. Some of them are hundreds of pages long. How could you, the citizen, possibly read them and know what they're doing? More to the point, how can they possibly read them? Amen. They can't. And I have a confession to make. I was part of the problem. As an analyst, it was my job to prepare a 1 to 2 page summary of all the bills that came before my committee. Basically a cheat sheet for legislators who were too busy to read the bills. So you have a lot of people like me, who you didn't elect, basically telling your representatives what the bills say. This is a system that's broken. This is a system that is not working. We need to limit the number of bills these lawmakers can introduce. The number... By the way, if you're curious, you can go to the legislature's website and you can look up your lawmaker and see how many he or she introduced. And take a look at some of the bill titles. You can read any bill and you can see what kind of time-wasting trivia some of your elected officials were spending your tax money on during the session. Senator Mark Boitano, during this session, introduced a piece of legislation that would have limited the number of bills a legislator could introduce. Can you guess what happened to it? Died in committee, that's right. But Senator Boitano's bill didn't even go far enough because his limit was 15 bills. Do the math, people. There's 112 members of the House and Senate. They can't be introducing 15 bills each. You've got to limit it to 5, or better yet, 3. I mean, in a 1 month or 2 month session, shouldn't each lawmaker be concentrating on 3 very important pieces of legislation? Yes. If that was the case, if the most bills that we had were, 300, 350 bills, you, the citizens, could follow them. The committees wouldn't be so overloaded that they're meeting until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, the last week of session. How many of you are going to go down there at 2 o'clock in the morning to listen to a bill being heard? Especially if chances are that they say, oh, we ran out of time, we're adjourned till tomorrow and we'll hear it then. We've got to limit the bills, we've got to get it under control so that you, the citizen, can take part and make your voices heard. The Richardson administration and the state legislature during the early years of his administration were able to grow the government of the state of New Mexico by more than 50% because you, the citizen, couldn't keep tabs on what they were doing. You need to be able to. We need to rein in the legislature because they're the ones who let the government grow out of control. We need to do it. You can make your voices heard. In the next session, you've got to contact your legislators and tell them that you back a bill limiting the number of bills that can be introduced. Without it, how can we possibly make a difference? Thank you.